there's a number of different ways that we can try to detect life on other planets. And this is a pretty new and very exciting and active area of scientific research right now, known as astrobiology. One of the ways we can look for life is by sending a rover to another planet. And you've probably all seen pictures and heard about the Mars rovers, which so far have not found life on Mars, but they have taught us a ton about the geology and the environments of modern Mars and of ancient Mars. So we can send rovers to other planets, and NASA has plans to send rovers to some moons of Jupiter and Saturn, although it takes much, much longer to get to those planets than it did to get to Mars, so those rovers probably won't get to those surfaces for tens, maybe even hundreds of years. But fortunately, there's more indirect ways that we can search for life. We can use satellites and telescopes like the Hubble to look for chemical signs of life in the atmosphere and the oceans of other planets and moons. And this is really interesting because it leads us to look back at our planet and look at how the atmosphere and the oceans of our planet have been shaped by the life that lives in them. So what does a satellite look for if it's analyzing the atmosphere of another planet? Well, one of the things it might look for is something like oxygen. So without life on planet Earth, our atmosphere would not have 20% oxygen in it. Almost all of that oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthesis done by plants and bacteria. And so we can model the atmospheres of other planets, look at the composition of their atmospheres, and try to decide if something's a little bit out of place, and then try to figure out if that thing that's out of place could be the result of a living organism, like a bacteria or a plant. So one of the obvious things that a rover can look for is something that's actually alive, or a fossil. Unfortunately, rovers, at least right now, can't really dig, and so they have to just examine what they see on the surface. And most of the time, fossils, beautiful fossils, are not lying right at the surface of the Earth, although sometimes they are. So the chances of a rover coming across something that we would recognize as a fossil in a rock is pretty slim, although certainly not impossible. But the rovers can also look at the chemistry of the rocks and the soils on a planet. And the same way that a satellite can look at something that's a little bit out of place in the atmosphere of a planet, the rovers can look for things that are a little bit out of place in the soil of a planet. There's tons and tons of chemicals that are made as the byproducts of living organisms that wouldn't be in Earth's soil if it weren't for life. And so we can use the same types of ideas and techniques and look for things that are a little bit different or out of place about soils, rocks, and dust on other planets.